Welcome to another Blind Bunny look video. As you saw in the title, today we're talking about Machina. I initially didn't want to buy this palette and I didn't. I waited very long and then I saw this announcement from Blind Bunny that Machina is discontinued because it does not sell very well. Well, there are a couple of reasons, I guess. My personal reason why I did not pick this up on launch is the backstory. This is a palette that comes with one of those heart-wrenching emotional backstories about the father. I'm sorry for everything that happens in people's families, but honestly, you're a brand. I don't want to know that. I have a very strict opinion on that. A lot of people agree, some do disagree, so we do not have to discuss this here. That's not the topic of the video, but that was the reason why I didn't buy this palette. But when I got the Longing palette, I saw that this was discounted to, I think, 19 euro or 18 euro. And I thought, well, for that amount of money, I can look past that story and we are going to tackle this palette. This is the first look that you see here. You will get 2 looks in the video. I would love to do more maybe in the future. Maybe I do more comparisons also in the future with this palette. But as of now, I just want to get a feeling for the palette so that I can incorporate it in a Blind Bunny upcoming ranking. And also in the back here, I do have the neutrals and cutrals from Cosmic Brushes, so that one I have to film too. And I have no clue if you have already seen the looks with the 2 Cosmic Brushes palettes or if this goes up first. I have no fucking clue, so just act surprised at the end. So let's talk about swatches. So let's talk about the swatches of this palette. I'm sorry if mine look a bit patchy and powdery. I had like cream on my body. I had a lotion on. That's why some of these mattes went on a bit weird. The shimmers went on classic. The second swatch video, I do not have that lotion anymore on because of the makeup wipe. I removed basically everything, but they went on actually the same. The most impressed I am with the reds and actually with the yellow. Honestly, I really like the way they look. In general, the swatches of Blind Bunny usually are very nice. You know me, at the end it all comes down to the performance on the eyes, and so far, just from the first look, I like the performance. I already can tell you that the shade Cyborg is not as I expected it to be. I love the shift. I love the way this looks, but it is very crumbly, a bit different to what we already have seen from Blind Bunny Cosmetics. Overall, the packaging here, I do really like. I'm honest with you, I am not a fan of the packaging plus color story. I think the color story inside this palette does not match the outside very well. Yes, we have the blues. Yes, we have the pinks and we have the blacks. But this row here, why do we have to have a row of muddy greens, of olives, of dirty grass in every single Blind Bunny palette that has come out lately? The last 3 had that. We had that in the Alice, we have that in Longing, and we had that in this one. And I have to check when we do the ranking, or when I do the ranking for you, if this is in more palettes. I can't remember if this is a reoccurring thing in her palettes. Aside from that, I know this is a very popular color story. It's maybe just not my taste, so I'm a bit more sensitive towards this. So let's make that intro very short and head over to look number 1. So for the first look, I go into Motherboard and I start to apply this here on the outer third of the lid and also tap it out in the crease, very messy. Next, I go into Circuit and I apply this in the center of the crease and then I flick it outwards and a tad bit inwards. It still looks a bit messy, trust the process, because now I go into AI. And with that one, I start right on that inner part here. And then I keep on blending it on that line between the skin and the darker blues. And whatever is left on that brush, I also apply on that lid and use it to blend out the dark shade. Just a tad bit. It doesn't have to be too tidied up because we're going to cover everything with a shimmer anyways. But it can just make a tad bit of a difference when you just soften it a bit. We're breaking the scheme here. I will not stay in the color coordinated columns exclusively. So I now go into Conscious. That one I tap here on that outer lid part and I do apply this on 2/3 of my lid. And of course, I now go into Cyborg. And I tap this here on the rest of my lid. And I flick it on top of Conscious. At the end, it might be more a 50-50 ratio on the lid, but that's fine because we need that space in the center where both meet to have a good gradient here. So the lower lash line, I'm just cleaning up a bit with the Victoria Beckham Instant Brightening Pencil. And now I go into Circuit again. And I apply this all along that lash line. Then I go into Flawed. And I use this here underneath to blend that out. I also took a bit of AI, that super light blue, and I apply this here on that outer part to kind of have a like glowing area, kind of. Does this make sense? But I like the look. For the inner corner, I of course went back into Cyborg and I connect that with the lid too. So this is now the finished look. For brow and highlight, I of course used Cyborg too, and I midway then decided to apply the ColourPop BFF Cream Gel Liner in outer space on the waterline. I didn't like that too clean look, and I don't know if you can tell, I also decided to do a little bit of a powder wing, so I used the shade Shut Down on this super tiny brush, and then I just did a eyeshadow wing. Just a tiny bit. I just felt like there was something missing. So here we have the first look. So for the lips, I just toned them a bit with the Ghost Face lip liner. And now, I actually forgot to do this. I'm gonna top it off with the Givenchy Balm in the shade 10. I totally adore this look. It's very pretty. That Cyborg shade, totally up my alley. Do I have shades like this now, I don't know, 200 times? Probably yes. Do I care? Absolutely not. So let's head over to the second look of this video. I'm starting with the Pat McGrath Extreme Black or Permagel Ultra Glide Liner, and honestly, I'm actually thinking of repurchasing this once this one is gone. And I use this to line my upper waterline. So with one of those straight flat brushes, I now tap into Shut Down. And that one I use to apply between the lashes to basically fill everything in. And I also apply here a tad bit on the lid. I just smudge it across the lash line basically, nothing very fancy. On a pencil brush, I now tap into the shade Human. That one I apply here on top and I keep on smudging. On a fluffy brush, I go into Arrow Code now. And that one I apply through the crease. And of course, I'm also blending it up in the transition area. And whatever is touching the lid is fine. Just let it blend there. Just work a bit messy here. With one of those more like fluffy paddle brushes, I now go into Burn. And I apply this on the lid. Just tap it on. And with the edge, I blend that in the crease. I now go into Conduct and I tap this here on the lid. Just tapping, no swiping. I don't want to build up the color. Just a like swipe of shimmer. I go into Robotic now, and that one I start to apply on that outer part and very, very gently in the crease. On the lower lash, and I'm also applying that Pat McGrath liner. I do take it a bit out like a tiny wing. I now go into Human. And I start to smudge out that black, bring it outwards too. I'm now taking the Ritual of the Fee Black Orbs in the shade Abyss, so the classic black. And I use a Made by Mitchell ME7. It's like the tiniest liner brush that I've ever seen. And I look into the mirror, and then I redraw that line and connect it with the lid and fill out that tiny wing. I thought this time let's start with my left eye because usually that's the one that I fuck up the easiest. So hopefully I can now replicate this. I now go into Robotic again and I use this here on top of the red to just darken it a bit and blend it out a bit more. I now go into the shade Switch. and use this as inner corner highlight. I actually applied 2 layers of this because this is very, very transparent. So it's easy also to build up or to just use a tad bit to wetten this eye area, because this is definitely a very nice wet look in inner corner. And here we have now the finished look. For the brow bone highlight, I used that switch shade. I already forgot it. Yeah, switch again. And I also added a bit more robotic here on that like outer crease underneath the brow bone area, because I felt like there is a lot of definition missing. It's not too much that I added, but I actually like this. Honestly, I wish I would have done this look a bit different. I just know myself, I am not a fan of this dark lash blending out into a light transition area, but I try to challenge myself every now and then. So if I could do this look again, I definitely would do it in a classic way with the dark creases, even black here on the outside. The liner, I would have done two, or I would do two. And I feel like I get a bit better at liners, so it comes together at the end. What do I think now of the Machina palette? If you remember my longing video from Blend Bunny, I was raving. I gave it 10 out of 10s out of 10s out of 10s. If I go strict in numbers, by the way, sorry for the dogs barking. It's so annoying. Every single morning when the people are like going outside with their dogs, those other dogs are barking because they just never learn to not do it. Let's talk about quality. I gave Longing a 10 out of 10, so I try to see this in perspective. And honestly, I can't give this a 10 out of 10 because I think the shimmers here are weaker than in Longing. I think this formulation is much like the older palettes before that. You know, those shimmers that are not really opaque. They are more like, they are like accents. They are there, and that is nothing wrong because Blend Bunny was never a shimmer heavy formulation. So I myself am more than happy that with Longing we get a different formulation, but this one not as good. And honestly, this kind of takes away a bit of the joy factor of this palette for me, so I give this in quality an 8 out of 10. Color story wise, if you just look at this palette, I think it's a pretty one. At the end, it's still a rainbow palette. So, is this worth a 10 or 9 or an 8 out of 10? Honestly not. 7 out of 10. Personal excitement, I give it a good 8 out of 10 because I am excited when I look at this palette. I see what I can do with this palette. Is this now a palette that I crave using next week or next month again? No. While the Longing, honestly, this is now the second day in my timeline when I'm filming these looks that I haven't used Longing, and I already miss it. And I already know that in my timeline next week, for you I think it was last week, I can't use Longing because I do have the 2 Cosmic Brushes palettes sitting here and I want to do looks with them too, so I already missed it. And Longing is just spiking so much more excitement than Machina does, but standalone, I think Machina is a good palette, and if you do not have anything from Blend Bunny, Machina is a good one to start if you want to dig into her colorful rainbowy formulation, especially the reds. Let's be honest, I love the 2 reds. She has a hand for reds. The reds in the Alice palette, oh, chef's kiss. What I don't like is that Burn and Arrow Coat are just going so much into pinks. I wish that would have been a bit of a different undertone, but it's fine. Maybe it's also because Conduct is one of those, you know, like pink to gold warm shades. If that would have been a more cool toned reddish pink shimmer, that would have saved the day for me. If I would have bought this palette full price, I would be very disappointed. But since this palette was only €19, I'm very happy with it. I do not want to say that this is a bad palette. It is absolutely not. It is the same outstanding Blend Bunny matte formulation. The shimmers are again lacking what all the shimmers were lacking before Longing came. And honestly, I also think that in the Lure palette, the shimmers are very different. So overall, it's good. It's nothing that I lose my mind about, but it's pretty, it's nice, and it makes me happy. Look-wise, I liked both, but I think I prefer the blue one a bit more because of my classic style. This is a bit out of my comfort zone, and although it looks pretty, I don't know, maybe it's a bit too pink for me. Maybe I could have done this a bit better. If I'm not mistaken, this palette is going to be discontinued. If you still want to grab it, it is here for me, 19 euro. I think it's like 50% off. So honestly, because of that price, I say go and grab it before it's gone completely. Now let me know, what was your favorite look, the blue or the red? Do you wish more looks with this palette? I can totally do that, but not in the near future. Like, we're not talking this month or next month, maybe more towards the end of the year, but I can totally do this. What I can already tell you is there is a Blend Bunny ranking coming, and honestly, have I done a Blend Bunny before, a ranking of them? I don't know actually. Oh my god. I did a ranking. I did a ranking 11 months ago. So it's definitely time to rank my Blend Bunny stuff again. Make sure you're subscribed so you do not miss out any videos on looks, on reviews, on rankings, on swatches, on me rambling about how bad I am at liner, all that stuff. So thank you as always for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.